Q Bekoe back, but now known. Windy City Hour, we live provide tunes dedicated to the 312. Vocalo radio steady breaking the barrier. What you gon' do? From underground to elite, the vibes is still giving. Drive a whole hour, sounds is still hitting. Make it loud for the artists of the hometown. 5 days a week if you ain't know, bet you know now, know now. One time for the Bekoe show, 2 times for Vocalo, 3 times for the city of the wind, where the real ones win. If you ain't know, 1 time for the Bekoe show,
let's go.
2 times for Vocalo,
okay.
3 times for the city of the wind, where the real ones win. If you ain't know.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, world. You're tuned in to Vocalo Radio 91.1 FM, your favorite Chicago urban alternative. I'm your host, Bekoe, the illest coming through your stereo. And today is Thankful Tuesday, Chicago. And I'm thankful because I got a special guest in the building with me who goes by the name of Rich Jones.
Hey, man. Thank you so much for having me in. I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful to be alive. I'm thankful we get to chat. I'm thankful for all sorts of things, man.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, sorry. I'm psychic.
I love it, man. It is Thankful Tuesday, and I'm thankful to have you here as well. It's long overdue, first and foremost.
Yeah, for real.
I remember when I first joined Vocalo a couple years ago, and Rainy Days came on. From there, you had me, man. And like since then, we've been in tune since that record played for me. I'm like, okay, Rich Jones is a very special artistic individual. And you're back again, Smoke Detector, recently released. You dropped a new visual not too long ago, Dream Life. We're going to get into all of that
Get into all the fun stuff.
But I mean, let's start things off with how has your day been today? It's a little chilly outside, so how your day been?
It's been pretty good. I think the most annoying thing was my cat kept messing around and knocking things over because he wanted attention. But if that's the worst thing, then we're doing pretty all right. So,
yeah.
And he's still cute. Shout out Linus. I know he's listening at home.
You're not a dog lover?
I am a dog lover. I just happen to have 2 cats named Ralphie and Linus, and they're great.
Oh, I like the name Ralphie and Linus.
Yeah, they're like the nicest cats ever. They're really wonderful. And their mom, Erin. Hi, Erin. I know she's listening at home too.
What inspired the names for the cats? I got to hit it.
Just kind of looking at them and hanging out with them and being like, well, what name are you? What name comes to mind? And Linus was just very much a Linus, and Ralphie was almost an Oscar, but then ultimately, like, no, you're a Ralphie. So it worked out.
Ralphie sounds like he's the one that causes a lot of trouble.
No, Ralphie's just, he's quiet, he's gorgeous, he's very sleek, long hair. And then Linus is the playful boy prince of the house. He's knocking stuff over, he's playing with things, he wants all the attention. It's great. So they balance each other out really well. And they've been a real joy to hang out with the last couple of years, especially since I haven't been outside that much. Great friends, exactly.
I mean, what's some things you've taught yourself? A lot of people have taught themselves something or have learned something during the pandemic. What's something you've learned or taught yourself during the pandemic?
I mean, learning how to mix and record my vocals. That's probably the most immediate thing I think of. I had to get way more self-sufficient in that department if I wanted to continue creating. Before that, I had a wonderful engineer named Joel Gutman who had an awesome studio, and he moved to Los Angeles, so I had to kind of figure things out. Thankfully, I have a lot of friends like my crew SEC and other musical collaborators of mine who gave me gear and we're like, hey, here's an interface, here's some monitors, like, you got to figure out your software, but these are at least some tools we know you can use so you can work on stuff. And so once I kind of sat down and got comfortable and watched a couple YouTube tutorials, it kind of just started to click. Obviously I've been observant. It almost sounds like the mom that says, oh, I watched the barber cut the hair, I can do it. It's like a little bit of that, but like, except if I mess up, it's only just going to make the song sound weird. It's not a bad haircut. So the stakes are way lower. But yeah, it was really fun. I think especially just learning to kind of just figure out my way of doing it. I think for me, it's a lot has to do with feel and what my ear is telling me. I know some people are far more technical and, look at, oh, it's this many dBs and stuff like that. And I'm learning, where those elements come into. I don't want to discount the science, but I know for me, I'm at this point just really enjoying learning about textures and how to make things feel certain ways from my records, and also learning to make my voice sound the best that it's ever sounded on a record. Because in my mind, because here's the thing, when I record, I do my best to record all the way through. So it's like capturing a performance. Okay. And then from there, maybe I'll add some ad libs or tags or whatever.
So it's pretty much it's a whole new feel with you recording yourself. And it sounds to me like, well, at least do you feel this new skill has helped amplify your sound?
Absolutely. Because it's made me more in tune with the sounds, basically what goes into that. And then when it's time to perform the music on the rare occasions I have been able to, I feel like I'm asking better questions of myself in terms of how are we going to present this? Because, I want it to hit live. I know it's going to hit in the headphones or in your car or wherever you're bumping it. But like, if we're going to deliver this live, what precautions do I have to take? And that's, obviously, I don't want to overthink it either and kind of kill the joy of it. But I think it's definitely allowed me, I think, to have a deeper ingrained sense of the record going into performing. Because I have friends. I remember, a lot of my big brothers in this, like Tomorrow Kings or Sketch 85 or Montana Max. They would preach to me the importance of memorization of lyrics before you go in, so then you can do it live. And my version of it is, I capture it live one take. So it's already kind of feeling like a performance. And then when I hear it back, I'm hearing the live performance. So I've already got my intonations and cadences just so. And then I try to do that live,
So a lot of these records on Smoke Detector, it's pretty much, in your word of live, one took. Or actually live with the band and the...
No. That stuff came later. I just mean in terms of the vocal recording. Because and by one take, I mean like I try to do it in one take. If I mess up, run it back. And, obviously you don't want to do it so much that you tire yourself out. That's one thing I realized a few years ago is this is a physical act. If you feel exhausted after a day of like singing or rapping, that makes sense. Because, you're definitely exerting effort. And, I think as I get older, it's like, okay, well, how do I take care of myself a little bit? Making sure you're drinking water or tea. I'm not great at it. I'm kind of fronting there, but like at least I'm trying to say this stuff out loud, so I do consider it more.
I like to look at you as like a foodologist, and you recently posted on your Twitter a drink that looked delicious. So I don't know.
Was that the one yesterday?
See,
it
was yesterday.
The old fashioned with the Manischewitz float. Yeah, that was cool. It was a pop up at the Kedzie Inn that Mike Sula from the Chicago Reader does, where they just have different restaurants come in each week. And so that was on the menu, and I had like a 10-minute wait before my food was going to be ready.
Drink.
Nice little sip. It was good.
It looked good. I saw it. I say, go Rich doing some rich things right here. But I got some music loaded up from off of your project.
To my dreamland,
New music from Chicago's own Rich Jones featuring Iceberg Theory, right? The Dream Life. And that video recently released. But before we actually get into the video, what's the Dream Life for you, Rich?
Well, so in the context of that song, at that point in the album, I'd written most of the album, and I didn't have a ton to say about where I was. And the instrumental, as you can hear with those strings, is just so dreamy and fantastical that I just kind of thought, well, if I'm not inspired by here, is there another time or place that I could go to that I then could write about something? And that to me just kind of felt just kind of epic and wonderful. And it really reminded me of when I was in Italy. In the fall of 2019, I was on this beach with my friends because it's kind of like a pretty sad quality to it as well. It's both like kind of like epic, but also kind of a little bittersweet. Like it's kind of like the end of the road or something. And like, so I just kind of transported back to that happier time, that more carefree time. Because obviously, right after I came back within a few months, everything was everything. So it also, I think, in the context of the album itself, it's it's meant to be fantasy. It doesn't actually exist. Smoke Detector as a world is Chicago. We're because like it's also in the flow of the album. It's right at the smack dab middle. It would be the beginning of side B on tape or vinyl. So it's kind of meant to be like a welcome back to the show, but we're not actually there because then the next record, 600 Paid, in my mind, you're immediately center of Humboldt Park, and it's just gray and it's greasy, and it's me and Convertible Ashley just looking cold and kind of like we're in like a LEP Bogus Boys video or something. But yeah, it's back to the harsh realities of it. So I think I wanted to provide something that would take people elsewhere because, what might be around you isn't maybe so lovely. And like, and when I've been performing it too, I've been kind of asking people afterwards, like, hey, if you did happen to go somewhere, where did you go after I did this while I was doing this? And some of the responses have been really interesting.
What's one of the most interesting responses?
My friend Body from Ebony Tusks, I did a show with him a few weeks ago, and he told me that he went back to Germany because that's where he spent his childhood. He was an army brat, and that was really nice. Him and I had a chance to catch up and really do the one-on-one for the first time in almost 10 years. So it was really we had a whole day to kind of do that, and then to kind of hear that from him as well. It was just, I don't know, it was nice, man. He's a lovely person. Go check out Ebony Tusks, amazing rap group from Kansas. Couldn't recommend them more.
And you were speaking on performing, like I've heard several great stories of your performances. Like I've heard just as soon as you came in the door. Shout out Raw. He was saying how you caught his eye. You gave an amazing performance, and I've just heard stories in general. And you also performed at want to call Payback.
Yeah, the big Payback.
Yeah, the big Payback at Metro with like Crucial Conflict, Do or Die, Twister, Shauna. That is a Chicago concert right there, and you are also on that bill. So how was that for you?
Well, they were calling it the West Side Invasion, and I guess my portion of it was the Northwest Side part of the invasion. But that was really special. I've been going to shows at Metro since I was 17, and to be able to share the stage with people. I mean, if we want to go way back, I remember it wasn't great reception on it, but I remember seeing the Hey video when I was maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 on the box or whatever. And I remember just being like, this seems like this is like the most fun thing I've ever heard. And it just, it spoke to me then. It obviously speaks to me now. Yeah. Those dudes are super nice. So it was just special to be included in that. But I think more importantly, it was just for such an excellent cause because, it's a war on drugs reparations benefit. The work that EAT.org has been doing and has been proposing in terms of, universal basic income, and then also teaching people how to get into the legal cannabis market, I think is just super crucial. And, Rich Wallace is the man. I love that guy. So for us to come together for a really fun thing, but also just for a super potent reason, it just kind of is just like, everything's just tied up with a bow. And so I was just so grateful to be involved with that. And I hope it's the beginning of a much larger conversation of what we can do in Illinois and beyond in terms of like actually trying to rectify. I mean, there's no rectifying the war on drugs, but how do we at least begin to help people rebuild in a genuine way that isn't just for optics, And I think what EAT.org is doing, especially in just giving people money, I think that's a great start. Especially, I'm a big fan of stuff like that. I think we need to be supporting people materially and directly and let them make their choices on what they want to do.
I love to hear it.
So yeah, it was cool.
And following you on Twitter, Instagram, I see that you're a huge enthusiast when it comes to cannabis. And I gotta ask you, do you ever thought about putting together your own strand?
I mean, that would be tight. Let's just say that would be the dream, and when it happens, I'm gonna be so loud about it. I'm gonna be as loud as the strain's gonna be. Okay.
You funny.
But yeah, when we get there, we'll get there. I think when it comes to involving myself in that world, I think the most important thing I have to remember is I'm an enthusiast, and I'm here to participate in that. But also, I think it's pretty messed up that the only people making money look like me, and that's not cool. So I'm going to maybe take a back seat on any of those ambitions while we can kind of maybe even things out a bit so that it isn't just people looking like me making all this dough, or like former police that are out here, now making money off the same thing they were busting people's heads for. I think that's despicable, and we can't have that continue. So,
man, Rich, I want to transition into Dream Life.
Let's do it.
You recently released a video for Dream Life.
Correct. Yeah.
What was it, like 10 days ago?
It was about a week ago. Shout out Vanna Black Soul. That was really special because he's one of my favorite visual artists, and I'd seen some of his animation work a few years ago when he played one of the last showcases that I put together. I used to run a series called All Smiles, and he just put together this it was like a pinball animation for like him, because I think he was the headliner for it, and I was just really impressed by it, and I'd always wanted to reach out to him to do some sort of visual of that kind for me. So with Dream Life, it was really awesome to reach out to him. We already have a relationship too, so that makes it even better. But and so I think from there, it also helped that my understanding of the process is that it is very time consuming to like actually get done. And so I already knew going in it was probably going to take a while. Like, best estimate was one thing, but I knew to probably tack on.
So what was a while? Was it like a year, a couple of months?
He did it in about I'd say from actually genuinely starting it, like, because he had to film me a little, to kind of build some of the things, and then like rotoscope it or whatever. But essentially, I would say it probably took all told me about 2.5 months. Which was, it's impressive, honestly, because I know some of the stuff can really drag on depending on the intricacy of it. So it's, and I also see like New Trash Crew, who's done my other videos, like they'll do like 3D world building, and I'm always amazed at the speed with which they can develop that. But even so, I mean, it's two totally different processes. When you're like drawing by hand, like hand animating something, even if it's on an iPad or something, that still takes a lot of patience, and it's tedious, and it's for a very cool end result. So I knew to be patient. I knew not to sweat him and just to let him cook and do his thing, and it turned out amazingly. Yeah, if you're by your computer or phone, go watch Dream Life right now. It's a beautiful video, and I think you might like it.
Before we get into a music break, I want to ask you what influenced the visual behind Dream Life, because it, like you said, when I was watching it, I'm like, wow, this is very different. It looks real artsy. It almost like a water pastel. You know what I'm saying?
Certainly. Yeah, I think those sorts of aesthetics I've been attracted to just kind of as a general thing, and I never delved into that form for myself. So it's like finding the style and figuring out how to integrate yourself into that style, tastefully, and I think in that regard, it was a really good first experiment, and I can't wait to do more stuff with him, hopefully, for future things. Because that's the other thing, to talking about letting people do their thing. The only thing where I didn't really do that with him is I had very specific visuals I wanted. And so, like, I'd be very curious to see what we could do in the future if, like, I was to say just like, hey, man, here's a general scenario. Show me what you do. And so that would be kind of the next step is, like, let me see what happens when you don't have any people like me being like, I need this, But
what's that word? Particular?
Yeah, my particular sense of things. But yeah, no, seriously though, he's been great. I've been super lucky to have just amazing visual collaborators in that world. If anyone's listening who's an aspiring artist and you got a friend who's messing around with a camera or whatnot, or animations, don't be scared to reach out to them and maybe see what you can do together. It can be something super simple and can still be impressive. I just want to stress that. But you at least got to try.
Let's talk more about Smoke Detector, because for some reason the title itself, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if any of you all know this, but I used to test smoke detectors for a living.
So that really hit. That was close to home.
It hit home, man. It started making me re-look up at smoke detectors and fire alarm lights and things of that nature. It really hit home for me, just the title alone. So, I got to ask you, what made you come up with the title Smoke Detector for this album?
I think it's part of I guess the last three projects have kind of had a thread. Like in 2020, I dropped an album called "How Do You Sleep at Night," which was meant to be kind of a call to people of conscience to care and just baseline care about what's happening, and that by what's happening it can be as wide as you want it to be. But and then Blue Beach, the EP I dropped last fall, that was kind of like we're burnt out, we need to chill a bit and kind of recalibrate, like a healing sort of project. And then this one I kind of looked at as like you've come back from vacation and the world is even weirder than you left it. And how do you cope with that? And it's smoke detector is meant to detect danger. It's a warning. And this album to me is kind of like, I just feel like we're holding together somehow, but the bolts are loosening, and the duct tape that you had around the muffler starting to undo itself, and it's just we're keeping it moving, but gosh, how much farther can it go? And that's kind of, I think, what's at the heart of this is it's an extension of that warning, except we've been warned and here we are, and we're still doing what we're doing. And I don't know, it's dark and kind of sad in some ways, but like I also, I don't know, there's always hope in my work, even if I'm not feeling so hot about the world. It's just I guess when it's all said and done, I guess we'll see what the next project brings. But I know for this one, I definitely, as I said, wanted to capture kind of my own paranoias and just kind of sense of things. I have a very cinematic way of kind of like thinking about the music itself, and I watch a lot of films and stuff like that, to kind of help inspire maybe some of the writing and whatnot. And the film I kept going back to in terms of everything was like Taxi Driver, just because like for my job I do a lot of driving by myself. It's just like you're in a bubble, and it's a lot of time to think about everything and kind of the dark side, the light side, and all that. And so like I think in this regard, it's kind of akin to that sort of like, we're on the verge of some sort of apocalypse or event or something like that. And again, everything is holding, but how long can the line hold? And I think I like to look at like the features as like people you might encounter in that world.
Let's talk about some of the features on the project. I know a lot of the features on the project are dear to you in general, even the producers that's a part of Smoke Detector. So can you break down some of the features and producers that's tied to Smoke Detector?
So it's a single producer, Iceberg Theory. We didn't really have a ton of contact during the making of this. It was kind of me working solo and then sending him stuff and him saying this is good, and that was great. So he's awesome. If you want to work with him, I highly recommend it. He's the man.
You said he sent you over 100 beats to go through.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's he trusted me, so I appreciate when people trust me. But you've got Davis the Dorchester Bully, who I think is probably one of the best in Chicago doing it. I hope people get to hear all of his current work, and then also what's coming up next. We've got Joshua Virtue, who's about to go on tour with Namdi. Safe Travels Boys. Today's day one, I believe. And then Ill Subliminal, who I've known since the beginning, since I started doing this in like 2006. We were able to reconnect 15 years later, 16 years later, and he's part of the Tomorrow Kings crew, all my brothers there. So it was nice to finally, all these years later, be able to do this.
Hold on, wait, let me pause you right there. What brought that reconnection back?
He was in Chicago last summer, I believe it was last summer, and we just had a chance to catch up. He called and said he was in town for a few days, and we hung out a bunch of times, and it was just, he's one of the, those friends that you've known for forever, and you can just kind of pick up and obviously maybe, you let him know about the new things or whatnot, but you still have that connection that really can't really be busted up. And him and I have that, thankfully. And so, he's very special to me as he was kind of one of the early mentors for me as like a 17, 18-year-old kid wanting to do this and being not very good at it, and having people who encourage you and teach you. And I think I was kind of really wonderfully guided into certain things in terms of how to approach my craft, how to approach my writing, and how to do it respectfully and as I guess effectively as possible, especially considering my early limited skill set, because I had to do a lot of work to get here. So that goes for him. Sketchman 85, like those Montana Max, like all those people who took a chance on a kid who just wanted to do this.
You've been doing doing it well too.
Yeah, man. But yeah, and from there, Yomi for Blankets, Curly Castro, Samira Truth, Reno Cruz, Lord Cartel, Def C, Convertible Ashley. Everyone, it all organically came together, and every single person I just listed, please go support their music and buy their art. They're really wonderful.
I love to hear how many connections were made on this one project. It shows that, man, Chicago has unity, and I that's something that I truly, dearly love. And, for those that you would like to speak to, this is your chance to let them know how they can connect with Smoke Detector. And has things been, working out for you as far as people connecting with the album?
With the album, I'd say pretty good so far. We're in a really weird age to release anything because people's attention spans is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I think it's kind of a weird mix of trying to find ways to meet people where they're at while also not compromising the vision I have for this project. Mm-hmm. If it's something that fewer people hear but it means more to them, I'm okay with that. Obviously, I wish everyone hear it and they love it, but that's just not the world. Yeah. I think that said, that's also why I've been so invested in making videos and making all sorts of kind of auxiliary media attached to the project, and to kind of really create a universe based around the music. And that's also, it's been funny the ways that it's like messed with me, because I think it's been really a wonderful process and really helpful. But like also my old definition of productivity is I'm making records, and I didn't really make any records this summer, but I did build a universe around an album. So I'm proud of myself for that. And so if you're looking to kind of get lost in a body of work for a while, that's not just something you press play and then throw away. Smoke Detector may be the album for you if you partake in certain things, say like soda water, for instance. If you drink soda water, I think if you had an ice cold Topo Chico and some headphones, I think this album would agree with you greatly. If you're in your car, I think it'll work. We got options.
I love how you use the food analogy, man. I love it. You're making me hungry. It's about lunchtime for me.
I'm just trying to set the scene. You want to go to Billy Goat after this?
Hey, sure. I am. You know what? That's exactly what we gonna do. But as we wrap up, you got to let people know about this joint I'm about to get into, which is called Blankets.
Okay. Got you.
Definitely break Blankets down, and we're going to get into it.
Okay, so first off, you can find Smoke Detector on all streaming services and at filthybrokerecords.bandcamp.com. This song, Blankets, is probably one of my favorite songs I've ever worked on. It was my first time recording and then mixing live instrumentation and kind of really producing a full song outside of just adding vocals and looping things or editing. And so I just a million thank yous to everyone who trusted me in putting that together. It was just kind of crazy the ways that people gravitated towards that song too, especially Samira and Curly, because they hit me up within 48 hours of getting, I sent them a playlist with everything, and both of them wanted on that. And I thought, well, is that overkill? And I thought, absolutely not. That just makes the song way more epic. And then, especially with Yomi, with her beautiful vocals and the harp, Reno, stepping up guitar-wise like a young Prince. It's no one's mad at any of this, especially me. Also in the context of the album, I know I keep talking side A, side B, but I figure this is a chance to spell it out. This would be the mid-album side A finale before it goes into the, welcome back to the show Dream Life. So just for when you do give this a listen, that's what's happening.
Give your social media handles one time so people can follow you and stay tuned.
If you want to stay tuned with me on Twitter, my handle is Jones So Ruthless. If you want to stay in tune with me on Instagram, it's richjones_music. And then Facebook, just come find me on Facebook. I mean, I'm on Facebook, but it's fine.
Search Rich Jones.
Just search
you
Rich
can even
Jones.
Google him.
Just even Google me.
What do you got when you strip away the lines you told yourself to stay?